Dropping gems from Keisha Christian. She's on a mission, sharing information, knowledge for soul, body and mind. Dropping gems, KeishaGems.com, KeishaGems.com.
Just Dropping Gems podcast, proud partner of Rude Rangers Unite and Strong Island Entertainment. We can be found on Roku and on the Rude Rangers app. Be sure to download the app on your iOS or Android devices. This episode is sponsored by Pure Romance by Venice. Venice Richards, your pure romance consultant, inspires women to enhance their intimate lives and take care of their sexual health. Book your party today. Info in the show notes or description box below. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Just Dropping Gems podcast. On this episode, I have Dr. Lott. He practices acupuncture, and he's here today to explain to us all about acupuncture and how it's beneficial for healing. Thank you so much, Dr. Lott, for coming on to my show today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's great to be here.
So I'd like to know, what actually made you want to go into this field?
Well, wow, almost 2 decades ago, I was a CPA, and I had a very close friend who was a primary care physician. And you know, he had his personal views on allopathic medicine, pros and cons, and he'd been practicing for like 20 years. And another close friend of his was an acupuncturist who had an office like 2 office spaces over from him. And he would see this acupuncturist like once a week, wellness visits. But he was introduced to him first time when he had gotten sick with pneumonia. And he had noticed like how quick his recovery was, how much more energized he felt, and was only on a short regimen of herbs for like about a week max. And, you know, sometimes I would go visit him. We would just hang out at his office, and he kept pushing me like, you know, you should go see the acupuncturist. He's great. And it wasn't like I was getting sick a lot, so I really didn't care, but he's like, you know, keeps your energy balanced and blah, blah, blah. So one day I decided to go with him, you know, just to try it out. I just thought it was just someone punching a bunch of needles, you know, into people, and, you know, the stereotypes that follow that, which is terrible. You know, people shouldn't follow that. And I tried it. You know, I fell asleep during the session. When I woke up, I noticed like over the next 2 days, you know, my energy felt like really balanced. You know, I would sleep through the night, and I didn't realize how important that was, you know, until after the treatment, because sometimes I wake up once or twice a night, maybe use the bathroom or just wake up and fall back to sleep. But sleeping through the night for like 2 nights in a row, oh my gosh, it was like a miracle. But I didn't tie it to acupuncture until my second visit, and then he spoke to me about, you know, how my heart meridian was out of balance, and I had heart and kidney disharmony going on, and he sort of, you know, briefly educated me. I was like, wow, you know, my close friend, you know, he and we were sitting down and we were getting deep into it. He was like, you know what, if you're ever interested in studying it, why don't you study it? And then, you know, I'll pay for half the education. You get the other half, and you could, you know, team up with me at my practice, and we can do it. I said, wow, you know, there's something to think about. But ultimately, I did it, but I did it on my own. You know, just having like 6 different business degrees, I said, there's no way if I attain this specialty, I'd be willing to lock myself into someone, you know, for 5 years or so. When, you know, I know how to do market research and so forth and so on. I can do it myself, but then I'd also still help him because, you know, he brought me the light to all of this, and which I did. So as I started studying it, I mean, it's just learning about the theory of yin and yang in and of itself was like amazing. How life is just all about balance. You know, and you have the light side, you have the dark side, and dark doesn't mean dark, and light doesn't mean light, but it's just like how you have good and bad, you know. And I started to understand like how some people would indulge or divulge in just good things, you know, for like 10 years, 15 years of their life, and they would naturally create an imbalance. The body's just, it's designed, yeah, you take care of it, but then, you know, you can afford a little space to, you know, have a little fun, if that's what you want to label it. Because your body's so strong that, you know, it's just like working out in a weight room. You need resistance to get stronger. And really getting deep into the theory of yin and yang, seeing how good and bad can be mutually consuming and reinforcing. I said, wow, this is like, you know, but even how it explained itself about life in and of itself, even like, let's say from personalization, you know, if you just look to be happy all the time, and if you are all happy all the time, that can negatively impact the heart rate, because too much joy creates imbalance in the liver meridian and even in the stomach and spleen meridians. So it just really got into teaching me, first and foremost, how to balance life so that I can educate my patients in the future. So as I studied it more and I flew back and forth to China to really be taught by some of the masters, go to the Yellow Mountain and get educated with Chinese herbs and things like that, I was like, oh, this is just so awesome. And that's how I got started. That's how I really got into it. You know?
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So you actually went to China.
Yeah.
Studied.
Yeah,
Okay.
I go to China. You know, I go twice a year, you know, because I'm able to practice globally. You know what I'm saying? Like around the world. Like I've seen patients in Europe, the Netherlands, Spain, the UK. I've treated patients in China. I'm going to Tokyo next month to see patients, and also in Colombia, South America. So for me, you know, I love this. I love it. You know what I mean?
I could tell. I could tell you're so passionate about it. When you spoke of yin and yang, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yin and yang, you can say it that way.
Yes. When you actually, what came to my mind was duality, or I should say polarity, like the law of polarity, where you have.
Oh, I love that subject. Do me a big favor, Keisha. Can I sort of move inside my hotel room?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's like a lot of beachgoers out here, and there's a lot of noise, and I really want to be able to hear you.
Okay.
Just bear with me, sorry.
No problem.
Sorry about that. It was getting pretty loud out there. I know. Now, you were speaking of the laws of polarity.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, so it's just like, that's what's coming to mind when you talk about the yin and yang philosophy, where you have two opposite sides. Now, we might say good and bad, but I view those as judgments, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the way those are the terms we have to use when we're describing this to a layperson. But that's so important that we need to have that polarity in our lives. You need to have the balance.
When it comes to polarity, just like yin and yang, there is no existence without polarity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just a reality. I mean, you need two sides of balance. You need positive and negative. There's positive and negative attached to everything.
Yes, exactly.
Like people can encounter like realities that are great, right? But then something bad will turn up relative to that reality, and it will just throw them off. You know, that's a sign that somebody's out of touch with, you know, laws of polarity, or even the laws of yin and yang, the theory of yin and yang. And then I try and tell a lot of my patients when they encounter negative and they harp on it, you know, I educate them to the fact that there's energies involved in the positive side of it. And if you find the positive attributes to this negative in which you're dealing with, your viewpoint of what you're dealing with will totally change. And it'll broaden your mindset. And then I go into the theory of yin and yang, you know, to explain, like, you know, the mutual consumption of life. You have to have some bad, you have to have some good. You know, but then that's still all opinion, that's all judgment, you know, because what some people deem as bad is really not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a lot of times negatives have a force of empowerment to strengthen you. So you need that. And it goes back to me when I said about joy relative to the heart meridian. If you have too much joy and excitement in your life, you know, how do you get strong? How are you able to face certain conquests in life and things like that? So the laws of polarity is very much relevant to yin and yang, you know, because you have two sides. You have to have like two sides of a magnet. You have to have a negative side and you have to have a positive side. And
even
without those,
atoms, yeah,
and without that, there is no existence. You know, there isn't.
Oh, that is so true. I think that's how, even like when you made the connection, like I always talk about the chakra system when we do have conversations about that on your show. Acupuncture is my life. When I talk about, there's a connection too with the chakra systems where you have a stagnation, right?
Right.
And when you have a stagnation, that could also be caused too because your body is not in harmony, it's not in balance, or it's not at homeostasis.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, whenever there's stagnation in the body, new growth stops. Because let's use blood for instance. When you have stagnant blood within that area or throughout the body cannot create new blood. When there's stagnation somewhere in the body. And this is something people don't understand, like with acupuncture, it's great for dealing with blood stasis, chi stagnation. Chi is a form of energy because chi is what moves blood. Blood nourishes chi. So there's your mutual transformation and empowerment. You know, so what happens here is people don't understand, like, blood stasis can affect the liver meridian and cause anger, you know, because when blood is stagnant, when there's stasis in the body, there's also pain, which leads to frustration. Because when we hurt, we're upset, you know, and then we run to the doctor. We want painkillers. We want to take over-the-counter medication to suppress this pain. And all you're really doing is numbing nerve endings, you know, to ignore the pain. But in general, you know, what acupuncture does is when you insert these needles anywhere in the body, the fact that it's an invasive form of healthcare, wherever you insert something in the body, blood rushes to. Yeah. So when you insert needles around the stagnant area where there's stagnant blood, you're breaking up. It also serves to break up that clotted, stagnant area to pull blood and energy to where that needle was inserted. And see, acupuncturists go through years of training to know the meridians, to learn the meridians, and where to insert the needles at certain points in the body to get the body to react. I mean, acupuncture has such a neurohormonal effect on the body, meaning anything acute that has, like, let's say pain or whatever, that's the nervous system. Now, the nervous system, depending on how you deal with it, elicits a response from the endocrine system. Now, anything outside of pain, let's say we need to emit certain hormones to balance out, you name it. It has that type of effect. And that's how powerful acupuncture is. And this is why I have my channel to educate people as to the many things that acupuncture does to benefit you. And even if you're not sick, and a lot of times you may not feel it, you're sick, because the body is just in this state of being that, you know, the feedback loop is operating at optimal level to compensate shortcomings in certain areas of the body. So you don't even know that you're burning out one area of the body to compensate for a shortfall in another. See, so acupuncturists, there's a certain diagnosis that we do that's tied to the tongue and the pulse and like how you sleep at night, you know, different excretion aspects, whether it's urination or bowel movements or whatever the case may be, that'll tell us where the imbalance is. And then I can touch the body on a certain meridian that I'm assuming from my diagnosis, and I can feel a stagnation, or I can feel the imbalance or disharmony. Then I'll ask certain questions tied to that meridian. And people will say, oh, wow, how did you know I experienced ringing in my ears, which is tied to the kidney meridian?
Mm-hmm.
Or dizziness or blurred vision, which is tied to the liver meridian, or palpitations, of course, which is tied to the heart meridian, and so forth. And so how'd you know this? And then some people will be like highly, from a psychological level, indecisive, you know, and timid about certain things. And then I'll ask them, like, have you had your gallbladder removed? Or, you know, you're experiencing problems with your gallbladder, if you had gallstones recently. And they're like, oh my goodness. But this is how we're trained, you know, to understand the human organism from a natural perspective through and through. And we get a lot answered. But see, the problem, especially in the Western society, is patients became impatient from, you know, I'll take some drugs and this is over with real quick. Whereas acupuncture, it can stem from one treatment to as much as 20. Because the amount of time it took for your body to cave in, and I'm talking about past the feedback loop where overcompensation, your body, you're spent, and the body just gives up. All right, you're going to suffer. I can't do this anymore. I gave you enough time to correct yourself. You didn't. I was ringing all types of alarms. That's it. The amount of time it took to get to that point, you know, think about what it may take to naturally correct yourself. Now, it may not take years. It may not even take months. It may just take, the body just needs that recharge. I may need to, let's say, hypothetically, borrow energy from another meridian, nourish the mother meridian or the father meridian or the sun meridian to channel energy back to the meridian that's depleted, that's facing like huge deficiency. And they'll notice it. And I'll talk my patients through it. A lot of times they'll call me and say, oh my God, I noticed that I was feeling like this, and should I be doing this? And I all of a sudden have more energy because of this. And I just tell them to relax, and I educate them further. You know, I have your spleen meridian nourishing the heart meridian, which is the mother meridian to the spleen. And I'll explain like certain things that they will feel like over the course of the next few days. And a lot of them are amazed, you know. A lot of them are amazed.
Wow. What's coming to mind is that something that you had mentioned is that you do, not today, but when I was reading the questionnaire, you mentioned something about neuroacupuncture. Can you go into that?
Neuroacupuncture, I got a lot into neurorehabilitation, which deals with the brain, central nervous system, and peripheral nervous system. But then I've even built on that to specialize in the enteric nervous system, which is the stomach. Okay. Because the stomach is our second brain.
Yes, exactly.
Like we can lose our mental faculties and be hooked up to all types of tubes in the hospital and still survive until we come out of the coma or whatever the case may be. But you let your stomach shut down and you're done. You're done. And that's just the reality. You know, but so what happens here is the stomach operates off of its own nervous system. You know, the brain functions from the central nervous system and ties into the peripheral nervous system, but the stomach functions off the enteric nervous system, which is very powerful. And there's connectivity between the brain and the stomach, whereas the brain, like when it along with thinking and the brain center instructing certain hormones to be elicited to repair certain aspects of the body, the brain has to be nourished. Where's the nourishment coming from? You know, the brain sends signals to the stomach, craving certain types of foods that nourish certain meridians and certain aspects of the brain to empower the brain to do what it needs to do. So there's communication back and forth, which is super powerful. But back to neuro acupuncture, a lot of times when it comes to my stroke patients, they'll lose control and a lot of sensation in a certain part of the body. It's a contralateral effect. Like, so if the left side of the brain is affected, the right side of the body is affected. So there's certain points, acupuncture needles, I have to put in the head that would affect and elicit a certain response on the right side of the body. Now, I don't just deal with the central nervous system when I do that. I put points on the needles on the extremities to sort of align central nervous system with peripheral nervous system, so that the spine like records information that's transmitted from the periphery back to the central nervous system, to the brain center, and then back to the area that's damaged. And then once you reestablish these neurological pathways, the patient benefits. Now, one thing I never say is, I totally cure, or acupuncture totally cures, but there's benefits and there's restoration. And if some people regain 100%, which I've experienced, then that's great. That's great,
Beautiful. Now, you had mentioned earlier about you studied herbal medicine in China. Do you incorporate that into your practice as well?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But I don't, there's some cases where acupuncture isn't the best first move decision.
Okay.
And it's good to just put the patient on herbs.
All right.
And allow the Chinese herbs to get the body to attempt to balance itself out through that form of nourishment. And then the body would tell the practitioner if we need to add acupuncture thereafter, what areas is still deficient. And sometimes, like, just simple herbal formulas when someone catches a cold. We can do Ma Huang Tang or Guizi Tang to help them just get over it and sleep better. And we don't even have to do acupuncture needles. People can be stressed out. There's different herbal formulas for stress where it doesn't require acupuncture needles. And in herbal formulas, people misinterpret that to think that it's just teas, and I have granule machines that actually capsulizes the herbs, put them in the capsules, so that when people are at work, on the subway, public transportation, whatever the case may be, they can just take it and drink water like they would take a normal vitamin or herbal supplement. But herbs serves its purpose, because sometimes in dealing with cancer patients or acute case stroke patients, it may not be best to needle them, okay? Because a lot of times, like I said, acupuncture needles move chi. Acupuncture needles move chi. And if there's still cancer cells in a certain part of the body, you don't want to bring the cancer cells to that other part of the body. So you may just want to just give them a herbal formula if the body calls for it, and then just go from there.
What exactly is qi? Because you just mentioned that. Can you explain to the audience?
Yeah, qi in a nutshell is a Chinese term, is a form, is synonymous with energy.
Oh, okay.
Energy in the body, qi. So when qi stagnates, that means energy somewhere in the body is stagnant. Like if someone encounters lower back pain, there's a certain amount of qi that's just stuck there, and it's from the body naturally trying to balance itself out and correct incorrect posture and things like that. Like, it overcompensates. And after a certain point, the energy just gets stuck there. And acupuncture is very good at moving qi, breaking up that stuck, stagnant qi in the area, and just getting the energy in the body moving the way it should, so that blood can properly circulate throughout the body.
Nice. That's really interesting. Acupuncture in itself in a whole. I just love the fact that you could use that, because I'm thinking of like how you look at the person as a whole system. The fact
Exactly.
that you're not the first thing you don't do is just put needles in a person if they just come to you. Like, how would you know whether or not that person would actually need acupuncture versus like cupping or whatever, or just an herbal treatment? How would you know that person came to you?
Well, some of the basics is like tongue and pulse, diagnosis. Then we have like a set of questions we ask. Body odor, believe it or not, everyone's body emanates a certain odor. And a lot of times we can't smell it. A lot of times we'll try and disguise it, by using cologne or perfume or whatever, or deodorant. You can get a vegan or someone that eats, good, clean food all day, every day, and they can go jogging and just work up a sweat, and you really won't smell much of an odor.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's eating properly. Then you get someone who eats tons of fast food, and they could run the same distance, of course, with a struggle, and they'll just emit a sweat that's like, but as acupuncturists, we're trained just to pick up the faintest smells on a person's body.
Oh.
We could look at the sclera of a person's eyes, and, if we can see any slight venules, arterioles, or anything within the whites of the eyes, or yellowing or graying, or any off-white color, we basically can sense what's going on. Sometimes a person can have like dark discoloration under the eyes, for example. That sort of hints we should start asking about the kidney meridian and different, disharmonies relative to that. Or there'll be like puffiness in the corners of the eyes, and we may want to inquire, or even on the bottom lid, we may want to inquire about their preference for sweet taste in the spleen meridian. Are you eating too much sugar-oriented foods, and so forth and so on. Skin, turgor. There's just so much. I mean, there's so many ways we can tell to say, okay, when we ask a certain set of questions, we can look at the tongue coating. If you like a thick, greasy coating, it tells us about our diet. There's a lot of stagnation in the stomach that's affected the spleen meridian. So this person, they're not that far off, but they really just need to clean out. We can recommend herbs that they can take to really just flush the system, stay on it, adjust their diet a little bit, and they'll see a huge difference. And I teach my patients how to self-diagnose just simply based on their tongue. Never brush your tongue, but go in front of the mirror every morning and look at it. You can have teeth marks on the side, and that would tell me or any acupuncturist that the spleen meridian is disharmony. If you have these thick coatings on the tongue, there's a lot of phlegm damp in the stomach, but thick coatings in the root of the tongue, phlegm damp in the kidney meridian. You can have redness on the side. There's a lot of liver heat, and that comes from people, social drinking. I noticed that they'll go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday happy hours, and they think it's nothing, but they can look at their tongue, or they'll show me their tongue, and I'll teach them. I'll ask them, how many times a week do you drink? And it's not just the 1 or 2 drinks you may feel you're having, but in a consecutive manner, like how many days a week you drink. And then I would teach them, like, you take a break from drinking for like 3 weeks and watch the redness on the side of your tongue go away. And some have done it, and they're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Lott, but the body has different ways to give off alarms that say, dude or young lady, this is wrong. You need to stop doing this or doing that. But, in today's society, television and bright colors, hanging out, looking good, and drink this and eat this, we've become so far removed from who we are as natural gods and goddesses of this earth, because, after God, we are creators of what we see, although being empowered by God, you know. So, I mean, Chinese medicine has enlightened me and brought me back to reality, you know, the natural way of living that, you know, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And another thing, while you were talking, I was even thinking about the fact that we don't pay attention to our bodies.
Yeah.
People don't allow themselves to feel their feelings, if you get what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
you don't even recognize when something is going wrong in your body. Like you mentioned, we're so used to just popping a pill, and all you're doing is killing nerve endings. Like when you have a headache, what is the reason for the headache? What's causing that headache? You know what I mean? So the fact that
I've had tons of patients that have come in with headaches, and I would just tell them, you know, rehydrate, get yourself back up to 70 ounces plus of water a day, and then you'll start noticing the difference. I actually don't even want to put a needle in you. I don't want to take your money or bill your insurance. Just do me a favor. Why don't you just take this week and, you know, just consume. And there's different types of waters that, you know, you're good with, but just consume, you know, 70, 80 ounces, start there, and then try and get up to about 100, teetering around that level for the next 5 to 7 days. And then give me a call and let me know if you want me to treat you for a headache. And 90 some odd % of them would say, thank you so much. I says, now make water a part of your life. You know, because everyone's on the diet sodas and the this and the that. You know, it has to taste good, but it dehydrates you, you know. And also think about the coffees that you drink. Liquids that also dehydrate you, because I get them to understand that even when you talk, you know, your body's emitting water.
exactly.
You know, you of course, when you use the bathroom and things like that, you know, you have to put that back. And what happens is when you stand up and you sit up, the human body's going against gravity. So if you're deficient, especially from the plasma aspect of your blood, less blood is going to the head. Voila. You know, dizziness, headaches, things of that nature. You know, so and the older we get, the tougher it is to fight against gravity. And we take it for granted. But gravity is very strong. I mean, you throw something in the air and it goes smashing back to the ground. But you could stand up every day. How come you don't smash back to it? Because we have muscles that counteract other muscles that balance us out and keep us erect. But of course, over time, we start to lose that. And we hunch forward and we find ourselves wanting to sit more, because that's the force of gravity now that's weighing down on muscles that are aging. You know, so, I mean, it's so much, you know, and Chinese medicine, the theory of yin and yang, it teaches you so much, even about the human body, like you said before. You know, just to further slightly elaborate, everyone's constitution is different.
Yeah.
You know? Some people are born with spleen deficiencies, kidney deficiencies, heart, liver, gallbladder, bladder, and so forth and so on. And it's up to the acupuncturist also in diagnosis to find out what deficiency were you born with. Because if you've been encountering a certain problem throughout your life, okay, and it's been constant, no matter how much you've attempted to rectify it, it comes back. Why? Because what meridian was deficient, you know, of prenatal chi at your birth? So you have to nourish that. And with regard to your postnatal chi. And I get into that type of stuff on my cooking channel that I'm going to be introducing soon, and it's based on Eastern nutrition. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to actually, oh man, I was blessed to just hire one of the top Eastern nutrition chefs on the planet, Chef Kiara, to, you know, do the actual Eastern nutrition cooking for me. But there's a lot of recipes we're going to go over. And I'm even going to like invite you to my show, because I want to get into that water stuff, fusion, and how important that is. And
yes,
so forth.
I have my water right here.
There you go. But like I was saying, you know, everyone's constitution is different. And that's what acupuncture and Chinese medicine is about, is to find out the strengths and weaknesses of your constitution. And even when you come for wellness visits, how do we support those weak areas that you were born with? And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And nurture it and strengthen it so that, you know, homeostasis can prevail. Because ultimately that's what we're after as health practitioners. And I'm sure you understand.
Yes, most definitely. Oh my goodness. I just wonder, like, if someone comes to you, how would they know if they were deficient in a certain meridian in utero? Like, how would you know that?
Oh, well, basically, it's when they were born, birth date, things like that come into play, the history of their ailment, and then it's like diagnosing the meridians. Acupuncturists are trained to diagnose the meridians because, when it comes to ailments, you have your root and your branch. And a lot of times, sometimes you could treat the branch, and if the branch is better, it'll nourish the root. But then if the branch can't nourish the root, then we get to the root to determine how long-standing has this particular meridian been dysfunctional, and how have things been playing out on that patient's life based on how we're educated as acupuncturists in the 14 plus the extraordinary meridians. We would know how to time back to birth to say, okay, and it also ties into TCM psychology as well, but okay, this is a problem that this person was apparently born with, and the body is telling us that. And at that point, we start to build treatment protocols to deal with the present ailment. But what's embedded in that treatment protocol is what's going to work on that lifelong deficiency as well.
Okay. And TCM psychology is actually traditional Chinese medicine?
Yeah, psychology. It has sort of an astrological effect to it because it gets into time of birth and in that particular year, because there's like studies where like a certain year you were born, like winters were really bad, so, and winters were long. So there was very little summer. So what did your mother go through when she was carrying you inside of her womb? And this ties into Eastern nutrition, because what could she have possibly been deficient in food source that couldn't properly nurture and nourish, you inside the womb? So that deficiency prevails once you're born. It'll start to show itself. Or let's just say if your mother was carrying you in an extremely hot climate, and it's year round, and then you move to a climate that has all seasons. There's certain deficiencies that you weren't nurtured with in the womb that'll prevail within a certain climate. And it's our job as acupuncturists to balance this out,
Oh.
Because, 5-element acupuncture there's so many aspects to acupuncture. This is why globally it's hard to regulate it, because there's different positions that you can take. Like when you're dealing with 5-element acupuncture, colors play a certain part, taste play a certain part, because if you have a constant taste for, let's say, sweet foods, then I'm automatically, without talking to you, going to start looking at what's going on in the kidney. The spleen meridian. But if you have constant urge for salty foods, now I'm thinking kidney meridian. You have the 5 flavors, spicy, pungent, all of that. And it all ties in, because let's say, like when I said salty foods, kidney, when you're craving certain tastes, that's your body saying this organ or meridian is weak.
Yeah.
And these are the types of foods that nourish this organ or meridian. So is it lacking in your diet, or is it that particular meridian or organ is overcompensating for something else and is being drained of its energy? There's just so much to it. Just even the time you can wake up every morning, let's say from 1 to 3 a.m. 1 to 3 a.m. is tied to the liver meridian. A lot of people don't realize that. And then you'll have a hard time falling back to sleep. So what happens is you're angry. That's anger. Something was bothering you for the day, and your shin is out of order, and you need to be balanced. The liver meridian is in disharmony. So I'll know, I can ask you Like, how many times do you wake up at night? Do you wake up at night? Do you fall right back to sleep? And I'm not talking about, let's say, if the doorbell rang or some construction worker decided to jackhammer outside your house at 2 a.m. No, not something like that, artificial that woke you up. But do you naturally wake up on your own? And what time? You know, and how long did it take you to go back to sleep? Then when you wake up, do you still feel tired? Do you feel tired during the day? What time during the day do you feel tired? You know, and it doesn't always mean that an organ or meridian is out of balance. A lot of people will tell me, I feel tired after lunch. Now, I know, all right, you went down to Wendy's or wherever you went, and that's fast food. That's just taxing your liver. And the energy is just going in to just detoxify yourself of the poison that you just put in there. That's why you're tired, you know, for the most part. But sometimes I'll delve a little deeper to see if it could be anything else. But I mean, you know, acupuncture, Chinese medicine is just, it's super deep, and it's the oldest form of medicine on record, you know, and these needles are used to balance the body out without actually putting chemicals in, because these aren't hypodermic needles. So it's not, no chemicals can go through it, so forth and so on. And then you also asked me, I didn't forget your question about cupping. Cupping deals a lot with stagnation and moving energy. I can notice, let's say someone will have back pain or whatever, and they may not want needles. And you know, and sometimes I could do fire cupping, sliding method, and just really move chi on the bladder meridian, the whole yang area, which is on the back, and yin is the front. And
I'm
yang.
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. What exactly is fire cupping?
Okay, fire cupping is when you use glass cups and you put a flame inside the cup, take it out, and then apply it to the body. Then it sucks the skin up.
Okay.
Once the skin is sucked up in the cup and you slide it along a particular area of body over stagnated area, you're breaking up that stagnation. Whether it's energy or whether it's blood, you're moving it. And a lot of times you're sometimes even extravasating blood from the blood vessels when you do cupping. And then when that blood is exposed to natural oxygen or natural air, and then it goes back, which it naturally does, into the blood vessels, and that's like the legal way to spin blood. Like athletes will take their blood out, spin it, and put it back in their body.
Really?
Yeah, and it gives them tons of energy, but then that became illegal. So then you'll get like some of these Olympiads and stuff, they'll go to cupping, because what it does is it pulls the blood from the vessels, brings it to the surface, and what's the surface of your skin? It's oxygen. It's surrounded by oxygen. So it's getting flooded with oxygen, and the body naturally pulls the blood back into the vessels. Voila.
Yeah. I've actually had that done. I've actually had a cupping done. And I know it leaves marks sometimes on your back, in the areas where the cups actually were, but like afterwards you just feel amazing.
Yeah.
I know
it's awesome. It's awesome. It really is though.
And I have to say, I love acupuncture. One day I have to come visit you.
Well, I have two cool patients that see me, and they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, my parents actually go to visit Dr. Lot, and they love him so far. My mom, her hands are starting to feel better and all that. She told me. Yeah,
great people. I mean, please excuse the beard and everything. I'm in Aruba right now. I'm on vacation. I needed a little woosah time to just relax, and that's why I had to come off the balcony, because you have all the beachgoers down there getting a little loud, and come inside. But I just wanted to say to the audience, excuse my appearance for the moment.
Oh, no problem. Well, Dr. Light, I have to thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, welcome.
Yes, and hopefully you'll come on another episode of Just Dropping Gems.
I'd love to. I'd love to come back. I mean, it's always a pleasure talking with you. I mean, you emit a lot of great energy. You have great questions to allow me, to better inform people on my specialty. I mean, I just think you're a great person. I've seen your videos. Love them all.
Oh,
love
thank
your
you.
Love your podcast. So thank you. And I'd be more than delighted to come back on your show.
All right, then thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Just Dropping Gems podcast. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you so much for listening to Just Dropping Gems podcast, proud partner of Rude Rangers Unite and Strong Island Entertainment. We could be found on Roku and on the Rude Rangers app, which can be downloaded on your iOS or Android devices. This episode is sponsored by Pure Romance by Venice. Venice Richards, your pure romance consultant, inspires women to enhance their intimate lives and take care of their sexual health. Book your party today. Info in the show notes or description box below. It has also been sponsored by Dropping Gems Publishing and Dropping Gems Academy. Be sure to visit our website where we offer holistic solutions with the soul in mind. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at droppinggems.com. If you are interested in being a sponsor or advertising on this podcast, you can contact us at www.keishachristian.com or email us at keishagems@gmail.com. Much abundance to you. Peace and blessings.